Preventing Tick and Mosquito-borne Disease in Massachusetts. This course provides an overview of how to prevent tick and mosquito-borne diseases. Various state agencies within the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, or EOEEA, have employees who work outdoors, potentially exposed to tick and mosquito-borne disease. Learning and Workforce Development, or LWD, offers this course as part of EOEEA's safety program. The contents of this course are provided courtesy of three primary sources: the Infectious Disease Bureau of the Massachusetts Department of Public Health, or DPH, the Cape Cod and Central Massachusetts Mosquito Control Projects of the Massachusetts Department of Agriculture, or DAR, and the Deer Tick Project of the Cape Cod Cooperative Extension, or CCCE. Learning objectives. By the end of this course, we will identify the different types of ticks and mosquitoes, review symptoms of ticks and mosquito-borne diseases, identify possible symptoms of these diseases, and the importance of seeking medical assistance. Learn practical steps you can take to help prevent infection. Overview of tick-borne disease. Ticks have been recognized as human parasites for thousands of years and were described by ancient Greek writers, including Homer and Aristotle. Ticks transmit diseases from infected animals to humans. Because they are so small and because people don't always realize a tick has bitten them, ticks may easily go unnoticed. Infected ticks transmit disease while attached to their reservoir hosts. So always check for ticks shortly after leaving a suspected tick zone, and always remove ticks as soon as possible. Co-infection means that ticks may transmit more than one disease in one single bite. Fortunately, you can prevent tick bites by following a few precautionary steps. What do ticks look like? The tick life cycle involves three feeding stages: larva, nymph, and adult. The drawing above shows the different stages of the deer tick, lone star tick, and dog tick. The larva of a dog tick is about the size of the period at the end of this sentence. A nymph is about the size of a poppy seed, and an adult is about the size of a sesame seed. A female adult deer tick has a reddish-brown body with a black dorsal shield. The adult lone star tick and dog tick are both slightly larger than an adult deer tick. The adult female lone star tick has a silvery spot on its dorsal shield, whereas an adult female dog tick has an off-white dorsal shield surrounded by a brown body. Both the adult dog tick and lone star tick are about the size of watermelon seeds, which makes them easier to see. However, lone star ticks differ from both deer and dog ticks in one very visible way. Lone star ticks can run really fast, much faster than dog and deer ticks. Let's take another look. Here in Massachusetts, the two most abundant types of ticks are the deer and dog ticks, while the lone star tick is much less common. Ticks transmit infection only after they have attached and become engorged from the blood meal of their host. Different types of ticks require less or more time to become engorged and transmit disease. Some estimates range from as few as 12 hours to as many as 56 hours of attachment. Ticks, a 2-year life cycle. The life cycle of ticks usually lasts 2 years. During this time, they go through 4 life stages: egg, larva, nymph, and adult. After the eggs hatch, the ticks must have one blood meal at each stage to survive. In the spring of year 1, eggs are laid. Then during August and September, the eggs hatch into larvae. At this stage, the larvae find their first blood meal, usually from mice, rats, chipmunks, and or several species of birds. If these reservoir hosts carry pathogens, the larvae can become infected themselves. After feeding for several days, larvae become fully engorged and drop off their reservoir host, usually into leaf litter where they molt into nymphs. Nymphs become dormant for the fall and the winter. In year 2, nymphs feed from late April through early August. At this time, nymphs may transmit pathogens to humans or other wild or domestic mammals. In the fall, nymphs molt into adult male and female ticks. Females feed on deer and other large mammals, then mate, lay up to 3,000 eggs each, and die. Adult stage ticks are active from fall through spring. When are ticks active? Most people think ticks are active between early spring and late fall, but would you be surprised to learn that ticks can be active year-round? For example, if you're hiking through the woods in February and it's just above 32 degrees, you still risk getting bit by an infected tick. From the chart above, Lyme disease occurs during every month of the year, so if it's just above 32 degrees, even walking through a break in the snow cover can expose you to an infected tick bite. As long as the temperature is above freezing, adult ticks can be active from fall to spring. For nymphs, the period of highest risk occurs from late April through early August, when they actively search for reservoir hosts. Nymphs tend to be more aggressive feeders than adult ticks. Plus, nymphs put people at higher risk simply because they're so small and more likely to go unnoticed on your body. Where do ticks live? Ticks are very vulnerable to dry conditions, so their prime habitat tends to be shady, damp, and/or forested areas. Other likely places to find ticks include woodpiles, brush, and stone walls. Larvae and nymphs are most often found at ground level in leaf litter, and they feed upon smaller mammals, such as mice. Adult ticks range from the ground up and can feed upon larger mammals, such as deer and humans. Tick-borne disease in Massachusetts. Tick-borne disease passes from animals to humans via ticks. When they bite humans, ticks can transmit diseases from infected deer, mice, and squirrels, also known as reservoir hosts. People seldom even notice when a tick has bitten them. If not removed, the tick starts serving as a vector and may transmit diseases like Lyme in up to 24 hours. So the sooner a tick is removed, the less likely a person will become infected by the disease. Ticks are capable of carrying many bacteria, viruses, and protozoans all at the same time, and transmitting them in one single bite. Diseases acquired together like this are called co-infections. In this course, we'll focus on the major tick-borne diseases in Massachusetts: Lyme, babesiosis, and anaplasmosis. While all three diseases are spread by the deer tick, Lyme is the most well-publicized and prevalent in Massachusetts. While currently very rare in Massachusetts, other tick-borne diseases are potentially emerging in number. Other diseases spread by deer ticks include Powassan and relapsing fever. Lone star ticks can serve as vectors for tularemia, ehrlichiosis, and stari, or southern tick-associated rash illness. Dog ticks can spread tularemia and Rocky Mountain spotted fever. Lyme disease in Massachusetts. The map illustrates Lyme disease incidence rates in Massachusetts by city and town from 2010 to 2014. The darker the shading, the higher the incidence. Lyme disease ranges across all Massachusetts. Areas of highest incidence include much of the eastern half of the state, particularly Plymouth, Cape Cod, and the islands of Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket, along with some areas in Middlesex, Essex, and southern Berkshire counties. According to the Massachusetts Department of Public Health, in 2014 there were over 5,600 confirmed and probable cases of Lyme disease. The highest incidence rates were among children aged 5 to 9 years old and adults aged 65 to 74 years. Lyme disease: agent, vector, and reservoir host. For transmission, Lyme disease requires an agent, a vector, and a reservoir host. The agent of Lyme disease is the Borrelia pathogen. Initially, Borrelia may cause skin irritation, followed by long-term neurological problems. The deer tick is the most common vector of Lyme disease in the Northeast. The larval-sized ticks hatch in the summer and feed on their first reservoir host, typically white-footed mice. While mice can serve as the primary reservoir hosts of Borrelia bacteria, other reservoir hosts can include rats, squirrels, several species of birds, and white-tailed deer. The larvae of deer ticks acquire Borrelia when they have a blood meal from an infected white-footed mouse. The larger, adult-sized ticks commonly seek out larger mammal reservoir hosts, such as white-tailed deer. Lyme disease: early symptoms. When someone is bitten by an infected tick, they may begin to show symptoms within days to weeks of exposure. While the most commonly recognized sign of early Lyme disease is the appearance of an expanding bullseye rash at the site of the tick bite, 40% of Lyme cases show no rash at all. If a rash does appear, its outer border is usually red and flat, with a partial clearing in the middle, so it looks like the typical bullseye rash that people often associate with Lyme disease. However, as shown in the bottom picture, if a rash appears, it does not always look like a bullseye. Instead, the affected area may be entirely red with no clearing or resemble a mosaic. With or without a rash, people may develop a fever and generally feel achy and tired. If you know someone who has these symptoms, seek medical assistance as soon as possible. Do not let this disease go undiagnosed or untreated, as the symptoms will likely worsen. Lyme disease, chronic symptoms. In the musculoskeletal system, arthritis occurs in up to 60% of untreated persons with Lyme disease. Lyme arthritis can include joint pain and swelling of the larger joints, such as the knee. In the central nervous system, chronic symptoms may include severe headaches, stiff neck, and facial palsies. Patients may also experience memory loss, sometimes known as mind fog, mood or sleep disturbances, and/or language difficulties. If you recognize these symptoms in someone you know, seek medical assistance as soon as possible. Babesiosis cases in Massachusetts. The map illustrates babesiosis incidence rates by city and town of residents in Massachusetts from 2010 to 2014. Areas of highest incidence include southern Middlesex County, parts of Essex County, Cape Cod, southeastern Massachusetts, and the islands of Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard. Babesiosis has been reported at some level in every county across Massachusetts. There were 520 confirmed and probable cases of babesiosis reported in Massachusetts in 2014. This was a 24% increase over the number of cases reported in 2013. People over 60 continue at greatest risk for babesiosis. 54% of all patients were over 60, and 67% of all cases were male. Babesiosis, agent, vector, and reservoir host. Like Lyme disease, the Babesia pathogen is transmitted by nymph and adult stage deer ticks. Reservoir hosts can include white-footed mice, voles, and white-tailed deer. After a tick bites into its reservoir host, it will transmit the Babesia pathogen if it stays attached for up to 2 to 3 days. The longer the feeding period lasts, the more likely the reservoir host will acquire babesiosis. Babesiosis symptoms. The incubation period ranges from 1 to 9 weeks with only mild signs or none at all. Gradually, several symptoms may appear such as fever, chills, headache, muscle aches, fatigue, and nausea. Those at risk for more severe complications are the elderly and people whose immune systems are compromised. If you know someone with these symptoms, seek medical assistance as soon as possible. Knowledge check. True or false? 40% of Lyme cases show no sign of a bullseye rash at all. The correct answer is true. While the most commonly recognized sign of early Lyme disease is the appearance of an expanding rash at the site of the tick bite, 40% of Lyme cases show no rash at all. However, if a rash appears, it does not always look like a bullseye. Instead, the affected area may be entirely red with no clearing or resemble a mosaic. With or without a rash, people may develop a fever and generally feel achy and tired. If you recognize these symptoms in someone you know, seek medical assistance as soon as possible. Do not let this disease go undiagnosed or untreated, or it will worsen over time. Knowledge check. True or false? Even if it's early January and the temperature is just above freezing, you could still risk getting an infected tick bite while walking across a break in the snow. The correct answer is true. Lyme disease can be transmitted during every month of the year, so if it's just above 32 degrees, even walking through a break in the snow cover could expose you to an infected tick bite. As long as the temperature is above freezing, adult ticks can be active from fall to spring. Anaplasmosis in Massachusetts. The map shows the anaplasmosis incidence rates per 100,000 by city and town of residents in Massachusetts from 2009 to 2013. Areas of highest incidence include southern Berkshire County, southeastern Massachusetts, Cape Cod, and the islands. Southern Middlesex County and Norfolk County both had isolated areas of elevated incidence. All counties reported cases of anaplasmosis in 2013. There were 329 confirmed and probable cases of anaplasmosis reported in Massachusetts in 2013, about the same number of cases reported in 2012. Regions with the highest incidence included southern Berkshire County, as well as Cape Cod and the islands of Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard. There were 763 confirmed and probable cases of anaplasmosis reported in Massachusetts in 2015, a 26% increase over 2014. Overall, 1,476 suspect cases of anaplasmosis were investigated. Statewide, anaplasmosis incidence increased from 9 to 12 cases per 100,000 residents. The counties with the highest incidence continue to be Barnstable, Berkshire, Dukes, Nantucket, and Plymouth. Berkshire County had the greatest change in incidence, almost doubling from 60 to 112 cases per 100,000 residents. Anaplasmosis, agent, vector, and reservoir host. Anaplasmosis is another infectious disease typically transmitted to humans by deer ticks. The agent is the Anaplasma pathogen. In the eastern United States, reservoir hosts for this bacteria include white-footed mice, shrews, chipmunks, and several species of birds. Anaplasmosis symptoms. The incubation period for anaplasmosis is 1 to 2 weeks, and during this time there are only mild signs and symptoms or none at all. Several symptoms may appear, such as fever, headache, muscle aches, chills, sweating, and nausea. More severe complications are associated with older aged people, those who are immunocompromised, diabetics, and those who delay treatment. However, few people with this disease will develop all symptoms, and the number and combination of symptoms varies greatly from person to person. Co-infections. The deer tick is capable of transmitting several diseases, including Lyme, babesiosis, and anaplasmosis. It has been documented that ticks can carry many bacteria, viruses, and protozoans all at the same time, and can transmit them in one single bite. A recently published LymeDisease.org survey of over 3,000 patients with chronic Lyme disease found that over 50% reported at least one co-infection, with 30% reporting 2 or more co-infections. In addition to Lyme, babesiosis, and anaplasmosis, the deer tick can also transmit the Miyamotoi pathogen, which causes relapsing fever. How do ticks get on you? Ticks require direct contact to catch a reservoir host. They do not jump or fly. A tick will climb to the highest point around it and quest, or stretch their front legs forward, waiting for a reservoir host to brush up against them. Prevention of tick-borne disease begins with you. Before you enter an area that may have ticks, plan ahead. Assume all wooded, brushy areas will have ticks, so prepare properly. Take the time to apply EPA-registered DEET-based repellents to your exposed skin and apply a permethrin-based insecticide to your clothing and shoes, or if available, wear clothing already treated with permethrin. Wear light-colored, long-sleeve shirts and long pants to make it easier to spot ticks on your clothing, and tuck your pants into your socks. Even though this may be difficult to endure when the weather is hot, it will help keep ticks away from your skin. When entering a possible tick zone, avoid shady, humid areas, leaf litter, and brush. Whenever possible, stick to main paths when walking, but if you must leave a path, make sure you follow all the other precautions listed on this page. Always perform a tick check after leaving a tick zone. Shower as soon as possible to find and remove any ticks you may have missed. If your worksite has a dryer, place your clothes inside and run the hottest setting for 20 minutes to kill any ticks. If the clothes are damp, additional time may be needed. Carefully examine your clothes, gear bag, and vehicle. Ticks can ride with you on clothing and car seats and then attach later to you. If after all these precautions you get a tick bite, remove the tick immediately with tweezers. See a doctor as soon as possible if a fever, flu-like symptoms, and/or a suspicious rash appears, and if you can, bring the tick to your doctor. Tick and mosquito repellents. Repellents and insecticides should be used to drive away or destroy ticks and mosquitoes. Use products containing 20 to 30% DEET on exposed skin and clothing. Always apply the product according to the manufacturer's directions. Use products containing 0.5% permethrin on clothing and gear to kill ticks and mosquitoes on contact. Do not use permethrin on skin. Permethrin remains protective through several washings. Always apply the product according to the manufacturer's directions.
Permethrin is the first line of defense for all outdoor enthusiasts, so whether you're hiking, camping, hunting, fishing, or traveling abroad, you should always apply permethrin to your clothing and gear as the primary insect repellent before heading out. Permethrin is a synthetic version of naturally occurring pyrethrin, which comes from the chrysanthemum flower. It repels and kills mosquitoes, ticks, chiggers, biting flies, and over 55 other kinds of insects. A complete outfit consists of a shirt, pants, and pair of socks, and each garment needs 3 ounces of permethrin to be effective. Permethrin is safe and compatible with almost all fabrics, but it will have an easier time binding to soft fabrics like cottons, wools, and synthetic blends. It will have a harder time binding to fabrics with tighter woven fibers like rainflies and waterproof shells. Now I'm going to show you how to apply the permethrin. First, you're going to want to select an outdoor area or a garage that's shielded from the wind. Give the bottle a good shake, and then lightly moisten the fabric of the garment with a slow sweeping motion, keeping the bottle about 6 to 8 inches away. A good rule of thumb is to treat each side of the garment for about 30 seconds. Let the garments air dry for 2 hours, then you'll have protection for 42 days of UV exposure or 6 washings, whichever comes first. Now I know you're probably wondering, what if my shirt is larger than the average shirt? Well, that doesn't matter. Whether you're a small or a 4XL, what matters is the number of molecules applied to your garment. And 3 ounces of formula contains enough permethrin molecules to be effective. However, the more molecules you apply, the more protection you will have. People have a lot of questions when using permethrin for the first time, so I'm going to answer a few of those frequently asked questions. Dear Amy, is permethrin harmful to my skin? Sincerely, Woodsy Whitney. No, permethrin is not harmful to the skin, it's just not effective on the skin. Dear Amy, what's with all the warnings on the box? Sincerely, Backwoods Brian. The warnings on the box are primarily to protect you during the application. There are dispersants in the formula that give it a nice even coat as you apply it, and you don't want to inhale those dispersants. So make sure you apply permethrin in a well-ventilated area. After it's applied, there's nothing to worry about. Dear Amy, is there anything that permethrin can harm? Sincerely, Fly Fishing Freddy. Yes, permethrin in its liquid form is harmful to cats. However, when it's dry, it's completely safe. But permethrin is not harmful to dogs, and in fact, it is used in many tick treatments. It is also harmful to fish and other aquatic organisms, so do not apply permethrin directly in the washing machine, and do not dump excess permethrin down the drain or in a river. Once it's dry on your clothing, it's bonded to the fabric much like the coloring on your clothing, and it will not come off in a river or a lake.
Daily tick checks. Whenever you exit from a potential tick zone, be sure to always check the many places ticks like to hide, including inside and behind your ears, along your hairline, the back of your neck, armpits, groin, legs, and even your vehicle, clothing, and/or gear bag. In addition to the tick checks, bathing or showering as soon as possible may help to wash off or find and remove any ticks that may still be crawling on you. Proper tick removal. If you find a tick attached to your skin, use tweezers or some other tick removal tool to extract it effectively. As close to the skin's surface as possible, grab the tick as close to its mouth as you can get to prevent squeezing its body contents into your body. Then pull straight up with steady, even pressure. Be careful not to jerk or twist the tick, as this can cause the mouth parts to break off and remain in the skin. If this happens, use tweezers to remove as many mouth parts as possible. If unable to remove all mouth parts easily, leave it alone and let it heal. Make sure to thoroughly clean both the bite area and your hands with rubbing alcohol or soap and hot water. After removing it, dispose of a live tick by either submersing it in alcohol, placing it in a sealed bag container, or flushing it down the toilet. Never crush a tick with your fingers. Reduce the risk of disease transmission. The amount of time a tick is attached makes a difference in terms of how likely it is for a person to be infected. This slide shows the amount of attachment time required for disease transmission. Anaplasmosis requires the least amount of attachment time, somewhere between 12 and 24 hours. Lyme disease needs between 24 and 36 hours, and babesiosis needs between 48 and 56 hours. Remember, remove ticks as soon as possible to reduce the risk of disease transmission. Tick-safe zone. Strive to create an environment unsuitable for ticks, while also raising awareness about the sites of potential tick habitats. Mowing lawns to a height of 2 inches will discourage ticks from crossing it. However, the borders and edges where lawns, gardening, and landscaping meet up with forest and/or brush will likely remain critical tick hazard areas. If it's not possible or practical to construct 3-foot wide barriers of mulch wherever lawn perimeters and stone walls adjoin the forest, you can still raise risk awareness by posting tick zone hazard signs. Wherever frequent human activity occurs, remove all leaf litter and brush from buildings and walkways. When possible, stack any new firewood piles away from structures and paths. Raising awareness and taking these steps may help make work sites less attractive to mice and other small rodents that can carry ticks. Knowledge check. Multiple choice. Which answer below is wrong about how to avoid a tick bite? A. Always perform a tick check after leaving any zone you suspect may have ticks. B. Use DEET and permethrin-treated clothes and shoes before entering a tick zone. C. Follow overgrown side trails and brush up against the ground cover. D. Carefully examine your vehicle, gear bag, and clothing to remove any ticks you find. E. Shower as soon as possible to perform a tick check and remove any ticks. The quote-unquote correct answer is C. Whenever possible, avoid coming into direct contact with brush or anything else that ticks can climb up to better latch onto you. In addition to the correct precautions listed in answers A, B, D, and E of the previous slide, you can also wear light-colored long-sleeve shirts and long pants, which makes it easier to spot ticks on your clothing, and tuck your pants into your socks. Also, if you have a dryer at your worksite, place your clothes inside and run it at the hottest setting for 20 minutes to kill any ticks. Knowledge check. True or false? The best way to remove a tick attached to your skin is to smother it in cooking oil or rubbing alcohol. The correct answer is false. The best way to remove a tick is to use tweezers or some other tick removal tool to extract it effectively. As close to the skin's surface as possible, grab the tick as close to its mouth as you can get to prevent squeezing its body contents into your body. Then pull straight up with steady, even pressure. Be careful not to jerk or twist the tick, as this can cause the mouth parts to break off and remain in your skin. If this happens, use tweezers to remove as many mouth parts as possible. If unable to remove all the mouth parts easily, leave it alone and let it heal. Make sure to thoroughly clean both the bite area and your hands with rubbing alcohol or soap and hot water. Knowledge check. Multiple choice. Which one of the following can help establish a tick-safe zone at a worksite? A. Allow leaf litter and brush to accumulate around buildings and walkways. B. Stack wood in piles near buildings. C. Let brush and weeds grow near paths along stone walls. D. Keep lawns cut to a height of 2 inches. The correct answer is D. Ticks are very vulnerable to dry conditions. Their prime habitat is shady, damp, and forested, so keeping lawns to a height of 2 inches will discourage ticks from crossing it. However, the borders where lawns, gardening, and landscaping meet up with the forest and or brush will likely remain critical tick hazard areas. If it's not possible or practical to construct 3-foot wide barriers of mulch wherever the perimeters of lawns and stone walls adjoin the forest, you can still raise risk awareness by posting tick zone hazard signs. Overview of mosquito-borne disease. In Massachusetts, viruses transmitted to humans by insects, such as mosquitoes, are responsible for serious diseases like Eastern equine encephalitis, commonly known as EEE, and West Nile virus, or WNV. These diseases can be harbored in birds that stay in our regions throughout the year, or be reintroduced by bird migrations. By spreading the disease from bird to bird, mosquitoes amplify the virus in the bird populations, increasing the extent and reach of the epidemic, so that as the feeding season continues later into the summer, the saturation level of the disease in the affected areas will build up faster and reach farther. For example, when EEE infects a large number of birds and different species of mosquitoes, infected mosquitoes that bite both bird and mammal species can serve as a vector and transmit EEE to horses and humans. WNV cycles mainly between birds and mosquitoes. WNV infected mosquitoes can spread these diseases to horses and humans too. The peak period of transmission of EEE and WNV is generally between July and October, so take special precautions during these months to avoid mosquito bites. Also, whenever possible, avoid being outside during the hours of dawn and dusk because these are the peak activity times of mosquitoes. WNV and EEE may also spread in other ways. For example, infected mosquitoes may be carried by air and ground transportation systems. Mosquito life cycle. Mosquitoes go through 4 distinct stages during their life cycle. The egg, which hatches when exposed to water, or can stay dormant for months or years until submerged in water. Each species has a unique strategy for where and when to lay their eggs. The larvae, also known as a wriggler, it lives in water, molts 4 times, and most species surface to begin breathing air. The pupae, also known as a tumbler, and the adult, which can fly a short time after emerging. and after its body parts have hardened. Male mosquitoes hatch first, up to a day in advance of the females. When the females emerge, they are attracted by the frequency of the male mosquito's wing beats and fly into a swarm of male mosquitoes to become impregnated. Once impregnated, the female mosquito does not need to mate again. The first 3 stages occur in water, but the adult is an active flying insect. Only the female mosquito bites and feeds on the blood of humans or other animals to develop her eggs. Both male and female mosquitoes drink nectar and other plant juices for energy. Larval mosquito habitat. One of the most common misconceptions is that streams, ponds, and lakes are larval mosquito habitats. On the contrary, mosquitoes cannot develop successfully in flowing water. Streams only produce mosquitoes along their edges, and also when they dry up and leave shallow, stagnant pools or puddles. Similarly, a bog that has several hundred square feet of shallow, marshy habitat can produce mosquitoes. Any temporary section of water present for more than a week can be a larval mosquito habitat, such as a flooded ditch or wheel rut, which can easily produce many mosquitoes in a short period of time. Thus, most mosquito species can complete their life cycle in a flood pool or a puddle present for more than 2 weeks, but cannot survive in a puddle that dries up after only 1 week. However, some species can go from egg to adult in 5 to 6 days if the conditions are right. For mosquitoes that amplify EEE amongst the bird populations in Massachusetts, the most favorable environment is freshwater hardwood swamps. Other habitats, such as cattail swamps, are an important environment for EEE vectors. EEE in Massachusetts. In the United States, an average of 8 human cases of EEE are reported annually. Most cases of EEE have been reported in Massachusetts, Florida, New Hampshire, and North Carolina. Transmission of EEE to humans requires mosquitoes capable of creating a bridge between infected birds and uninfected humans, such as some Aedes, Coquiletidia, and Culex species. Human EEE cases occur relatively infrequently, mainly because the primary transmission cycle takes place in and around swampy areas, away from where most people reside. Anyone working, living, or visiting an area where EEE has been identified is at risk of infection. People who engage in outdoor work and recreational activities have a higher risk of infection due to possible prolonged exposure to mosquitoes. The map above illustrates that historically, southeastern Massachusetts is the area of highest risk for transmission of EEE. There were no confirmed human EEE cases in 2014, compared to 1 in 2013 and 7 in 2012. Symptoms of EEE. After an incubation period of 2 to 10 days, a person will experience headache, high fever, often 103 degrees to 106 degrees Fahrenheit, lack of energy, nausea, vomiting, and/or diarrhea. Inflammation and swelling of the brain, called encephalitis, is the most dangerous and frequent serious complication. 2 out of 3 people infected with EEE will either die from the disease or suffer from severe neurological complications. Death usually occurs 2 to 10 days after onset of symptoms, but can occur much later. West Nile virus in the United States and Massachusetts. As of August 2, 2016, a total of 36 states have reported West Nile virus, or WNV, in people, birds, and mosquitoes. Overall, 89 cases of WNV in people have been reported to the CDC. Nationwide, in 2003, the peak reached 10,000 infected people. In Massachusetts, as recently as 2014, there were 5 cases of humans infected with WNV. But in 2012, the number of infected people spiked up to a peak of 30. Across the U.S., a parallel pattern emerged during the same 2 years. In 2014, 2,000 human cases were reported, and in 2012, West Nile virus reached a peak of almost 6,000 cases. WNV cases in Massachusetts. The Massachusetts DPH identified 10 confirmed human WNV infections in 2015, compared to 6 confirmed cases in 2014. In Massachusetts, a mosquito that serves as a vector for WNV is the Culex pipiens species, which is closely associated with human activity. The map above demonstrates transmission to humans is highest in counties with high population density. WNV symptoms. After the bite of a mosquito, the incubation period for WNV is 3 to 15 days. Most people who become infected with WNV, approximately 70 to 80%, do not develop any symptoms. About 1 in 5 people infected will develop symptoms such as fever, body aches, joint pain, headache, sometimes swollen lymph glands, and rash. People over 60 years of age are at greatest risk for severe disease. About 10% of people who develop neurologic infection due to WNV will die. Most fatal cases occur in people aged 50 years and older. In Massachusetts, 6 people aged 70 years and older have died from WNV. Overview of the Massachusetts DPH Arbovirus Program. The DPH Arbovirus Program focuses on preventing viruses transmitted by mosquitoes, ticks, and other arthropods which have no backbones. Arbovirus is an acronym for Arthropod-borne virus. This program has 3 components: field collections, lab tests, and reports, plus disease surveillance and risk communication. Field collections involve setting and collecting traps from long-term sites in southeastern Massachusetts. Lab testing examines mosquitoes, suspect animals, and human specimens for infection. Overview of the Massachusetts DPH Arbovirus Program. The third component of the DPH Arbovirus Program is disease surveillance and risk communication. The program objectives include identifying areas at risk for disease, communicating findings to local health agents and the public, and providing information to guide decision-making to reduce the risk of disease. Publication of the map above is an example of this program. Overview of the Massachusetts DAR Mosquito Control Projects. The Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources, or MDAR, houses the State Reclamation and Mosquito Control Board, or SRMCB, which also oversees mosquito control in the Commonwealth. The map above shows 11 shaded districts where the Mosquito Control Project staff actively work to provide early surveillance and detection of disease threats to the public. The SRMCB and its Mosquito Control District staff work closely with DPH to ensure that early detection, warning, and response systems are effective and safe. During each mosquito season, staff from the Mosquito Control Projects and the DPH monitor for mosquito-borne viruses to respond quickly before the onset of human illness. Mosquito Control Project staff deploy a range of strategies and tactics which may differ from one district to another. Mosquito control activity depends on many factors, such as differences in mosquito species, geography, and fresh versus saltwater habitats. Prevention tools. Several tools help reduce the risk of mosquito-borne infection. These tools overlap and complement each other. However, some tools like ground and aerial spraying may carry more risk to the health of affected communities. One key tool is generating awareness about the most practical steps and behaviors people can take to prevent infection, such as wearing clothing to cover exposed skin, using insect repellents, and avoiding exposure to mosquitoes when they are most active during the hours of dawn and dusk. Source reduction deprives mosquitoes of shallow, stagnant water by emptying water from various containers such as tires, buckets, tarps, and clearing clogged rain gutters. Larviciding involves the use of a pesticide, usually bacterial, to reduce the emergence of adult mosquitoes. Additional area-wide tools include reducing the emergence of adult mosquitoes through ground and aerial spraying. Prevent larval mosquito habitats. Remember, mosquitoes need water to develop. You can reduce the risk of mosquito-borne disease by turning over or getting rid of stagnant water in containers around your buildings and grounds. Have you made sure that the rain gutters drain easily? If there's a bird bath, do you wash it out on a weekly basis? Have you stored the tarp so it doesn't collect rainwater? What's next with mosquitoes? The Asian tiger mosquito, or Aedes albopictus, centered above, is identifiable by its striped appearance which resembles that of a tiger. Tiger mosquitoes have become a significant pest for 2 major reasons. In addition to the hours of dusk and dawn, they also typically fly and feed during the daytime. Plus, they usually live in close proximity to humans rather than living in remote wetlands. While native to tropical and subtropical regions, it is successfully adapting to cooler regions as shown in the green shaded region of the map on the left. During winter, the species can even tolerate snow and temperatures under freezing, either by hibernating or finding suitably warm enclosed microhabitats. The tiger mosquito transmits several pathogens and viruses such as yellow fever, Zika, dengue fever, chikungunya fever, and usutu. Tiger mosquitoes are very difficult to suppress or to control due to their remarkable ability to adapt to various environments, close contact with humans, and reproductive biology. The Zika virus is also spread by the Aedes aegypti, pictured on the right. Currently, there is no vaccine nor cure for Zika. As shown above by the blue zone in the map on the right, these mosquitoes live in tropical, subtropical, and some temperate climates, so it's unlikely it can survive in Massachusetts. However, Zika virus has been found in Aedes albopictus in other regions of the world. The Massachusetts DPH and the mosquito districts have expanded surveillance in 2016 for Aedes albopictus to determine the extent of its range in Massachusetts and whether it has become firmly established or whether it is being reintroduced each year. Remember, use the same precautions against all mosquitoes. Wear clothing that covers as much skin as possible. As much as possible, refrain from outdoor activity during the hours of dusk and dawn. Use the EPA-registered repellents and/or insecticides. DEET works equally well for both mosquitoes and ticks. Eliminate stagnant water wherever possible. Check and repair any broken screens. For more information, refer to the resources and links page near the end of this course. Knowledge check, multiple choice. Please select the wrong answer below, which will not help prevent mosquito bites. A. Use repellents and/or insecticides such as DEET and permethrin-treated clothing. B. Empty or cover any containers that collect stagnant water. C. Check and repair any broken screens. D. During late afternoons, wear a t-shirt and shorts while working outside. The quote-unquote correct answer is D. It's best to keep your skin covered as much as possible, especially during the hours of dawn and dusk, when mosquitoes are most active. Also, prevent water from accumulating in containers by tipping them over or covering them. Check all screens and repair or replace any that are broken. Wear repellents and insecticides such as DEET and permethrin-treated clothing. Knowledge check, multiple choice. If a mosquito bit you 3 days ago and you started feeling a headache, high fever, nauseous, and low energy, what should you not do? A. Take your temperature. B. See a doctor as soon as possible. C. Follow your doctor's advice. D. Do nothing. The quote-unquote correct answer is D. If you have these symptoms, then as soon as possible seek medical assistance for testing, diagnosis, and treatment. To do nothing would leave you exposed to worsening symptoms and fewer options for treatment. Fact sheets at mass.gov DPH. For fact sheets and a wealth of other information, please visit the mass.gov DPH website. Just click the button under each document to learn more about preventing tick and mosquito-borne diseases. Resources and links. The primary resources for this course include the Massachusetts DPH, Division of Epidemiology and Immunization, Bureau of Infectious Disease, with links to DPH tick, tick ID card, and DPH mosquito. The Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources, DAR. State Reclamation and Mosquito Control Board, SRMCB, with a link to DAR Mosquito Control Project. Cape Cod Cooperative Extension, CCCE, Deer Tick Project, with a link to CCCE Deer Tick Project. U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, with links to CDC Lyme, CDC EEE, and CDC West Nile. Tick Encounter Resource Center, with a link to Tick Encounter. If you'd like the transcript of this course, please click the red full script button. The producers of this online course would like to generously thank the Bureau of Infectious Disease Division of Epidemiology and Immunization, Massachusetts DPH, for providing the PowerPoint presentation which formed the basis of this course. Timothy Deschamps, Executive Director, Central Massachusetts Mosquito Control Board Project. State Reclamation and Mosquito Control Board, Massachusetts DAR, for consultation with the course review team. Gabrielle Sokolsky-Hoops, Entomologist, Assistant Superintendent, Cape Cod Mosquito Control Project, State Reclamation and Mosquito Control Board, Massachusetts DAR, for consultation with the course review team. Larry Dapsis, Deer Tick Project Coordinator, Entomologist, Cape Cod Cooperative Extension, Barnstable County, for consultation with the course review team. The Massachusetts Departments of Conservation and Recreation, DCR, and Environmental Protection, DEP, for their ongoing support and input. This course is a production of the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, EOEEA, Learning and Workforce Development Competency Center, LWD. If you have feedback to share regarding this course, or if you're interested in other LWD trainings, please email lwd at eeatraining@state.ma.us or call us at 617-292-5997. Thank you for participating in this LWD course.